Shit, that's good stuff.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the new normal Film Finance plus Industry Change panel. My name is Taylor Owenby on behalf of Imperial Savage Productions, and it's a pleasure to welcome you alongside our esteemed panelists from around the world. Thank you for being here. We've got a lot that we're going to tackle today, so I'd like to start by just saying thank you. We're all in this together. As we're going through the 2020 virtual American film market, I want to welcome you to stop by our booth at Imperial Savage and to check out all of our awesome projects that we're exhibiting at the market today. And also feel free to follow up with us. We'll be happy to address any further questions that you have at the end of the panel. We look forward to having a great experience today. So it looks like we have a pretty full house. So I think we can go ahead and get started with introductions. I'd like to start by welcoming Joshua Harris, our first panelist up today. Josh, would you mind telling a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, thanks, Taylor. And first of all, let me say happy Veterans Day, and to all of the former veterans that are on the line or families of veterans, thank you so much for your service. It's truly a special honor. But as Taylor mentioned, I do want to introduce myself. My name is Josh Harris. I'm a Senior Vice President and Entertainment Executive for City National Bank, the official bank of Hollywood and Broadway. And in that capacity, I'm responsible for entertainment banking and everything that encompasses it. So that could be film finance, production accounts, everything underneath that umbrella. In addition to that, I hold many community positions and board positions in the entertainment community. So I'm always serving the Atlanta area as well as our other market. And then lastly, I'm also a producer and executive producer on many upcoming films and TV shows coming up. So that's me.
Thank you, Josh. Next, I'd like to introduce Grady Craig, if you don't mind telling our audience a little bit about what you do, where you are, and who you are.
Yep. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm Grady Craig. I'm the Vice President of Business Development and Operations and an executive producer at Bondit Media Capital and Buffalo 8. We're located in Santa Monica, California. Bondit Media Capital is a world-renowned media finance company, senior secured debt lender. We work on budgets, less than 10 million in the film, television, and media space. And the Buffalo 8 side of our business is production services, packaging, executive producing, developing, distributing, and post-production for, film and television.
Thank you, Grady. Appreciate it. Next, we have DavidPaterson. If you would, please introduce yourself.
Hi, guys. My name is DavidPaterson. I started out as a playwright for the big money. Then I switched to an actor for the steady work. Then I became a screenwriter for the respect that I'm shown by all the studios. And then I became a producer to get my stuff made. So, I've had many hats and had my hands in many different elements of the business.
Thank you, David. And where are you hailing from today?
Oh, I'm hailing from just outside New York City. It's a rainy day outside New York City.
Awesome. Next, we have Sefi Carmel. Please introduce yourself, Sefi.
Hi, guys. I'm Sefi Carmel. I'm the CEO of Soundtrack Creation and its new baby sister, Creation Entertainment Media, the latest addition to the family. At Soundtrack Creation, we do original music and sound design for feature films, episodic TV, and advertising, and we've worked across various budgets. We're currently finishing work on Hansel and Gretel, which is a really great animation, fantasy. We work a lot on live action as well. So Creation Entertainment Media, the new addition to the family, is a production company that we've set up to go into the space of equity investment into projects that Soundtrack Creation is doing, so we can have a little bit of skin in the game and bridge some of that financing gap. So we're interested in international co-productions and setting up post-production deals for international co-productions mainly in the feature film space, but also in episodic TV. We're currently working on a 52-part kids animation TV series as well. So yeah, looking to enjoy both those spaces.
Thank you, Sefi. And next we have Bruno Chatelin. Did I pronounce that right, Bruno?
Yeah, more or less.
Okay. Well, tell us a little bit about who you are, where you are, and what you do.
Yeah, okay. Bruno Chatelin, I'll spell it for you, Chatlin. Joking. Welcome from Paris. It's dark, it's cold, and it's not nice, or not as nice as it would be in LA, Santa Monica, usually this time of day. My background is majoring in business school, then advertising and film. I served companies like J. Walter Thompson, etc., as a county director, etc. Became a film addict as marketing director for Sony, Columbia TriStar Film Distributors, and managing director for Fox, which I merged with the biggest French company, UGC. So that's one part of my career, running studio movies and communication. Then I became in some sort of online expert and co-founded filmfestivals.com and built a series of films that were things that were alien then and now the new normal, platforms, etc. Filmfestivals.com, one thing. And my other hat is as a marketing consultant and festival expert, I advise film and help them navigate the festival circuit, giving them a strategy, connecting them with the festivals I know, etc., and building their marketing presence on the festival circuit.
Thank you, Bruno. And next we have Cesar Garrido. Cesar, why don't you tell our audience a little bit about who you are, where you are, and what you do?
Hello, thank you for having me. My name is Cesar Garrido. I'm based in Panama, Panama City in Central America. I'm a producer and also a marketing and distribution consultant. Before I was working for 20th Century Fox and Sony Pictures as well as Bruno, specifically for Central American region. And after a while, I moved to the freelancer space, again, as a marketing and distribution consultant. And recently, I started running a podcast show called Taquillando, which is about marketing, distribution, sales, and exhibition in Latin America.
Thank you, Cesar. And last but certainly not least, Leslie, please introduce yourself. Tell us who you are, where you are, which I think we'll all be a little jealous about, and what you do.
Hi, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here in this space. My name is Leslie Vanderpool. I'm the founder and executive director of the Bahamas International Film Festival, and the festival is 17 years old. We have been encouraging, entertaining, and really being an advocate for cinema in the Bahamas, as well as international films being a standard for those Bahamian filmmakers who aspire to, and screenwriters residency programs, panels, films. So much has gone on with our festival, and we've honored amazing celebrities. I'd just like to pay tribute to Sir Sean Connery, who is a resident of the Bahamas, and unfortunately he passed on, and he was very much part of the film festival. But we've honored Johnny Depp, Nicolas Cage, Lawrence Fishburne, Daryl Hannah, the list goes on. But my love for this industry is just really getting people together, making films, telling stories, inspiring, cooperating, supporting young directors, giving them voices. And we have gone into schools teaching thousands of students to make film. We've gone into the prison system where we've taught inmates to make film, senior citizen homes. So I'm very passionate about what I do. And I really look forward to providing a voice and collaborating with all of you. I've collaborated with some of you before, and being in the Bahamas, it really doesn't make a difference where you are. You know, you don't have to live in New York, you don't have to be in Hollywood. It's just as long as you are doing what you are most passionate about and following through and being disciplined every day.
Thank you, Leslie. And what a great sentiment to kick off our questions today. I'd like to start off with question number one. We're going to dive right into financing. For many, you know, film financing has always been the toughest part of creating content. You know, how has the pandemic changed the way your team finances projects? Has it? And if so, could you elaborate a little bit in the manner in which you and your companies have adjusted? I'd like to start that question with Josh, and then we can follow up with Grady. Josh?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Taylor. So the question is around how COVID has impacted financing film. And I think there's no other way around it, that it absolutely has impacted it. There, you know, you've got very basic things like COVID insurance now, and certain bonding requirements that's required that were not required before. So I think, you know, there's some obvious changes, but I'd like to focus on the positives that have come out of this. And that's that we have seen an interest in private investment companies and investment firms and getting into the media space with the explosion of SVOD platforms. It's really presented a strong opportunity for private investment to step in and supplement what we're able to do at a banking level and at a lender level. So I guess a couple of scenarios where I'm talking about here would be for films that have created an audience based off of the content there, and then they have aligned themselves with private investment in order to bring that content to life. That's really gone very well. And that's not something that we saw a lot of pre-COVID. We had some in the industry, as you all know, but it's definitely escalated to a level that we've never seen before, which is presenting a real opportunity. You might think that puts someone like myself out of business, but it actually puts me very much in business, because the bank is not, we're very much traditional gap financing, right? So it's a situation where you come to the bank. The traditional model is you come to the bank, you have a distribution plan in place, you have pre-sales, international pre-sales in place, and I'm simply providing gap funding on those basic things. But what happens to the content that needs to be developed? What happens to the content that doesn't have distribution yet? That's been very much a difficult uphill battle up until COVID. COVID really introduced the private investment platform in a way that we have seen, the level that we have not seen in this industry before. So that's a very positive change that's come out of this. You got a lot of private investment firms that are seeing a tremendous amount of opportunity with streaming platforms, and they now want to get in on the ground level of that.
Yeah, I share some of the same experience with Josh here, in that I think early on when production shut down, we really just saw a shift in where we were financing, or the types of media we were financing, becoming things like VR companies or podcasts, or like he said, some SVOD companies that were looking to acquire content just because of the surge in subscriptions on their platforms. In tandem with that, what the shutdown has allowed us to do is spend a lot of time developing projects, packaging projects, for the moment that we can, take them out to distributors and secure these minimum guarantees or distribution deals, so that when restrictions alleviate on a state-by-state basis, that we can get right into financing and going into production. I think it's likely that the projects Josh is, the bank is financing have probably larger crews, larger budgets, and it can be pretty difficult to get through without COVID. So for us, the sub 5 cent, sub 10 million level, it just requires that the testing protocols and guidelines that are in place, are approved by the governments there, and we can trust the line producers on these productions know what they're doing in that sense. And the second piece being, is there any other controls we can put in place to mitigate some of these risks? Shorter shooting days. Can we monitor the payroll piece of it? Can we have our in-house post-production team handle the post-delivery risk to the distributor? And those types of controls have allowed us to get more comfortable with financing things. And honestly, it's been a massive surge in the amount of productions that have been greenlit in the past 3 months. That it's like 3 or 4 or 5 closing calls that we're doing almost every couple of days here. So that's a good sign and a good signal that people in the industry want to work and want to make content, and people are certainly still buying it.
Wonderful. Yeah, no, I think that's an overwhelmingly positive response, guys, on both fronts, right? We're seeing that there's an uptick in the amount of business that you're doing, and also with the transition, it's allowing a lot more players to come into the space that maybe weren't either interested or didn't see the need before. And so, speaking of financing, I think, we should look forward to the future and try to find ways that we can optimize this industry. And so I think you just hit on a really good point, Grady, about streamlining production efficiency, right? If we're looking at shortening our day out of days, if we're looking at bundling up services, Sefi, I believe you mentioned earlier on putting together equity pieces as a part of that deal. I see a future where we could possibly shoot a film in 2 to 3 weeks of principal photography max, and be able to bring players in on the equity side that really take that hard money capital level, the private equity capital need way down, and the ROI for returns way down as well in terms of a timeline. And so it's going to be interesting to see over the next couple of years, as we're all adjusting and we're trying out these new models, how that will stack up against, the way things have been done in the past.
Taylor, I just had one more quick point I was going to make in terms of changes that COVID has brought that are positive. There's really some isolated impacts too in certain geographies that I think it's worth mentioning, and Georgia being one of them. Georgia has seen a lift in interest in coming here because of our infrastructure that we have in place. And, of course, all across the country, but I'm based here in Atlanta because of the tremendous amount of growth and opportunity in this market specifically, now being the film location capital of the North American continent. And we have seen locally here in Atlanta, some of the studios that I represent and work with, they're booking out for 2 and 3 years now. And that's a tremendous change from a pre-COVID setting. You've got productions that want a controlled environment. They want to set up in sound stages where they can easily have security, and they can monitor who comes and goes and have limited capacity on set, to contract the virus. So that has also presented a real opportunity for certain geographies and certain markets to see an uptick and a lift in business as well.
Thank you.
Just a quick follow up on that as well, is that I think some of the really obvious survivors and winners of COVID are going to be animation has become, it's coming to its own, where obviously you don't need to have 150 people on set, but the filmmakers can create in a socially distanced space. We're also seeing a lot of movement towards more digital production, more COVID-friendly scripts a lot of scripts about 3 guys in one location, or 1 guy in a car, or 1 guy in a spaceship, or, you know, kind of people are being creative with the way they're writing scripts, writing more COVID friendly, contained scripts, trying to tell the story in a way that is COVID friendly. Another obvious winner is documentaries that where,
Sorry,
you know,
Leslie, sorry to cut you off, Sefi. Leslie, you were saying something?
I just can imagine 2022 or 2021 submissions are all going to be based on COVID stories.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of production and how that's changing, you know, as the saying goes, content is king, right? But not everyone has been able to create in the way they have before. You know, what, like for those that are involved, Sefi, David, those involved with the production process, you know, how, what is the biggest challenge that you guys have been facing with producing content right now and putting together content? And then how are you overcoming those challenges? I'd love to start with you, Sefi, and then go to David on that.
Well, the biggest challenge has obviously been keeping the staff, keeping, you know, our team safe at the beginning of the pandemic. However, we've been working remotely for years with clients, you know, in LA, in Berlin, in Tokyo, and in Moscow. So that was almost like we were preparing for the COVID pandemic in advance, because we had remote protocols set in place, and we all I dispersed my team. Basically, they all took some equipment to their homes, and we were doing a lot of sound editing from home, and then gradually kind of coming back into a social distance way of working here on our campus. But the biggest challenge has been keeping the team safe and managing client attended sessions where the director would want to come and fly and attend a final mix of a movie, and that is still doable, but we're doing a lot more to shorten those processes, shorten mix times on the dubbing stage, and having a lot more back and forth digitally, so that we can spend, you know, as least as possible time in the same room and have as much of it as possible signed off in advance remotely.
Want me to hop in here? Yeah. Well, we all are familiar with the term hurry up and wait when it comes to show business. There always seems to be a rush, and then all of a sudden there seems to be a slowdown. Well, I think we all can agree we've hit a bit of a slowdown here right now. And a lot of people almost feel paralyzed by it. But I think we all as artists need to remember that whether you're a director or a producer or an actor, people always say you're always as good as your next project, because no one does this just to do one project. So if you find yourself kind of grounding to a halt on one, like we were about to start casting for a show, but we would be casting pre-adolescent children, and we didn't know when this would exactly end. And we didn't want a 4-foot boy to come back on set in 18 months and have a deep voice and he's 6'12". So, you know, what we did with that is actually we said, all right, what's the paperwork that's still outstanding that we have to do for the background? And so many people wait to try to figure out other elements of their film. And then you get to the hurry up when, say, you're finishing up the film. Oh, but we didn't get these license rights, or, you know, this thing was not filled out, or where is this paperwork? So in respect that one project, we're pretty much figuring out all that. But again, with my company, I've produced films anywhere from $75,000 to $28 million. So we also look at, well, what's our inventory and where are we with that? In the process, we're reading 5 books, and we're in the process of optioning 2. That takes forever because there's a lot of people involved. You know, you have the artists, and then you have the artist representation always wanting more than you're willing to offer. And negotiations in that respect take months. And I really appreciate what Sefi mentioned about COVID friendly. We're going to be stuck with that term for many, many years. But it's a great way, because I just pitched something and I was able to get Angelique Jolie's people to look at it, because I said, this is a COVID-friendly project, meaning it's a limited cast, limited sets, so you can control the environment. And people's ears perk up with that. Because again, as I think Grady was mentioning, that also they go, oh, that's going to cost less money. And that these are ways that you as an artist and as a filmmaker should take on. Oh, I don't need 100 people on set. We can do it with 50. Well, that's going to bring the money down. And in fact, that's positive. I'm also a fireman, and people ask me, what's the difference between being a fireman and being a filmmaker? I'm saying, well, there's a lot more fires to put out with filmmaking than they are as a fireman. And so basically, if you're doing a movie that's 100 grand or a movie that's 100 million, there's just a lot more fires and a lot more people involved. So one of the great things about this, and if we can say, you always look for the positive, is to be able to minimize your cast and crew to maximize your dollar. And I think this is the perfect time to do that.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, people are getting more creative, right? In the way that we pull teams together, the amount of resources that we may not otherwise have access to, that all is working towards multiple benefits moving forward. Well, looking beyond the development side and the production side, we also need to talk about our audiences a little bit and how to reach them. As theaters shut down around the world, festivals followed. A lot of us are partaking in the virtual American film market this year, going on right now. And so we're seeing changes all the time. And that's a great thing. We're starting to see signs of life. For Leslie and for Bruno, I'd love for you guys to provide a little bit of insight on this. People want to know what's next. And what changes are you seeing in the festival and in the market circuit? Leslie, I'd love to start with you.
Sure. I mean, I think that the festival market we're still promoting, we're still programming, we're still showcasing. And, it hasn't really slowed up for us, especially this year. I think there will be a slow period next year. Where content is a little bit more stretched out to production. But, people want to see, I said this to you and Cesar, I think a while ago, but people are missing that dark room experience. And so we have to really create experiences. We have to be very innovative, like AFM is doing, creating this festival village and really providing audiences with what they're used to. There's always now it's going to be the demand from the audience. They're going to be more discerning. They're going to be telling you, the filmmaker, what they want to see. So it's not necessarily, you make a film and they'll come. You need to really listen to the content that you're creating for the audience to really participate, because they have such a short attention span these days with so much going on. I mean, it's now virtual hangovers that we're experiencing. So I think that the festival market is the theater. The film festivals are now the brick and mortar theaters, and so I'm really excited to be able to be here in this moment. Of course, I don't know, and I paused for moments, for months, just trying to figure out what it is the new normal is, or the normal is, because I think that we all really need, even though David mentioned you're always as good as your next big gig, but you really have to pause sometimes and figure out what content you're creating and what audience you're serving and what you are doing, because now people, as I said, the attention span is very, very short, and people's money, they're very cautious of it as to what they're investing in. So your story has to be very, very spot on, and their film festivals offer that whole programming experience from the nuts and bolts, and that's what you'll learn. that's your institution, and you should, all filmmakers should be clamoring on to these kinds of virtual film festivals and virtual panels, because it's, I feel, I was participating in the Cannes Film Festival with Taylor and Cesar this year, and that's where I met them. But that's one of my favorite festivals, and I just because it's always it's a circus of so much that you want to know about, but I just felt it was so much more intimate, and it was very effective. And I think it was even more effective because you really had to utilize the networking tools that were virtually available to you. And you can, call on people, you can send them notes and they respond instantly. Where at Cannes or other festivals, you have to run down the Croisette, or you have to run down this building, that building, everything is very accessible. So I think film festivals are definitely here to stay. It's just how you're providing that experience, and what the next phases of showcasing. I mean, cinema will always be here, and I think somebody touched on it. When the Great Depression happened, what was the most what was in demand? It was cinema.
That's a great point, Leslie. Bruno, what are your thoughts on this subject? How are you seeing things change in the market circuit, and what do you see coming next?
I love the fact that what I've been hearing so far was kind of positive, and that's very important to convey that. And I'm a true believer that if you build it, they will come. In other words, that the man and film professionals have this very big skill of being able to reinvent and shape differently and nicely and positively. I think as far as the impact of COVID, the festivals are not the one that have the most suffered from that, because think of Cannes, for instance. Well, a festival, what I mean is a festival can change date. You can postpone and wait for, you can transform, you can go from something very expensive to build to something that's hybrid, that's smaller, that's online, virtual, and still puts a date on the history of your event. As far as the market is concerned, and I'll come back to festivals in a while, but as far as markets are concerned, I've been in Cannes, I think, I can't remember exactly, but more than 30 times, probably 33 or something. So I know extremely well how to navigate this thing. And of course, I realize I'm privileged and not everyone can navigate so easily. I must say that navigating the Cannes market, the online, I found very disappointing. And when I chatted recently with Jonathan Wolf, who runs the AFM, he told me first thing he told me, he said, I'm very happy and lucky that we came second, because we were able to learn from what Cannes did. So the good thing is the markets, and also one thing he added, the networking component he built, I believe, with Filmocracy. I know Filmocracy. This component he knew and told me, you can expect to find this in 2021, whatever the form of the AFM is. And most of the elements he invented for the online version, he thinks, as far as the screening go, etc., will still be there. So in other words, they're improving. What I want to say now is, in terms of business, in terms of how you make the business, nothing will replace the quality of being in a festival and festive and nice environment to make business and meet someone in the lobby and actually. So that's, I believe, it's easier on real life than online. As far as festival, to come back, it's always been a dream of building online virtual theaters. I must even confess that filmfestivals.com in early, yeah, I'm afraid of telling the date, 2000, 20 years ago. We invented things that were online and digital and online, and everyone was telling me, this is crazy, it's too early. 15 years ago, we did on Second Life a virtual Cannes before all of this new normal. The year we had U2 on the red carpet, linked with the movie called U2 3D, and Thierry Frémaux had organized a concert. We had reproduced this in the virtual, in Second Life with the actual avatars of Bono and all of that. And this not only a joke, it's also a sign that if you understand what the technology can provide, you can build things. And it was used, what we did there was used to sell and to promote filmmakers, and not only just to play with programming and stuff. So we had people that were allowed to show their films in Cannes, plus on Second Life. So I'm a strong believer that the new technology help make things better, and the challenges of situations like that make you a better person, more creative. And I see festivals getting ready with new things, and it's smart and it's good, because in the past, the only thing a festival wanted to do is grow bigger, get more money, more sponsors, more audience. Now they are exposed to being also challenged into doing things better, smarter, with more socially relevant issues, equity, and et cetera, et cetera. So I see this thing as a positive sign that the profession will get better. And it's not bad that some festivals decide to take a hiatus, not to go with an edition, because they can regroup and come back. That's, by the way, it's more comfortable for a festival than for a theater owner, because a theater owner suffers if it's locked down, shut down, then it cannot postpone. It's a loss of cash and money. So just a few thoughts.
I think we've all been in this place where we've tried to find out how to work virtually for many years. We just don't. We're just realizing now, as we think back, how much, as Sefi said, he started working outside of an office. I think you don't really need an office to work out of, and this COVID issue is what it's done is forced us to collaborate. It's the spirit of collaboration. It's happening right now with technology, blockchain, techies, filmocracy, filmmakers. Everyone's trying to figure out how to collaborate because they have no choice. But and it's this like it's getting the vaccine. We all want to have this quick fix, and what do we do with the film industry? Sometimes, as David said, we need to pause and just work within, adapt to what we're given.
I want to add something which is important. That situation might transform or empower film festivals in becoming people that will have a role in the distribution of the movie, in the career of the movie. This being said, it requires some skills that not all festival people have, which is understanding communication and marketing, and how to reach and get new audiences. But this being said, some of them will achieve, and I'm confident that in the course of 5-10 years, you'll see some film festivals become like online channels, online broadcasters of quality films and best film fest or things like that,
All right, I just want to stick with the point that about Bruno's monetizing of funds. The film festivals have the opportunity to have the filmmakers receive revenue. that we have to think about ways to help them monetize, get
It's
money.
important. Yeah, of
support
course.
them. And who's going to do that? I know there's a film festival coming up who's going to share revenue with filmmakers, and that's John Fitzgerald's film festival. I think with Filmocracy, but that hasn't been discussed at great length. But I know he's thinking about doing that, and I think a lot of film festivals need to think in that space.
What's funny is people have been thinking of that for decades, but now you got the tools in place.
And that really speaks to sales and monetization through distribution, right? Like how we can improve on that end user experience, connecting and bridging the gaps between the filmmaker and the audience in a way that makes sense. Speaking of distribution, Cesar, what new opportunities do you see happening with that? I know you've got some interesting things from your perspective that you're working on as well.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, first, I think that this situation, the pandemic situation, has shown us that we are allowed to think in different ways, in new ways, and also has made us realize the value of the human side of this industry, because it's not that you think in the human side just for the audience, but also for the people who work within the industry. So things about collaboration, not just as filmmakers, but also as platforms. You have seen in Europe how TV stations are starting to get together with VOD platforms to work and create stuff. Film festivals have been crucial also in showing a way to cinemas and VOD platforms to collaborate together and do things. Also, we have enough time to analyze and understand the niches of audiences, but not just as a demographic, more in a personal way. Like who is exactly watching our films and why they watch it, what else they do, what else they care about, and that's because we have been also suffering the pandemic, so we have been able to put in the same position as them and give a deeper thought on these kind of things. And then also we have seen the value of the data, because nowadays every single person, every single minute is generating data. So for us, that's something hugely important, because that's how you let's say develop and plan things in general in distribution. So I think that it's after the change from the analog format to the digital format, this has been the biggest challenge for me in the industry, because it has made us embrace that we are allowed to do things in a different way. Even studios, I don't know if you have seen, but they are getting involved with other platforms in very interesting ways. Like I saw the concert that I think was Warner did with a video game platform, and years ago thinking about those kind of things was too out of the box and too risky for them to just go with it. In such a short amount of time, they have taken many risks that are very, very interesting. So for at least for Latin America, that we usually use the US and Hollywood as a reference, seeing that they are taking these steps, it's also a reference for us to try to do the same. So also producers now are more aware that they're not just making a film, they are also reaching audiences. So whenever anyone who comes with a project, it's showing all the, let's say, the assets and the characteristics of the film, they're also talking about how they're going to reach the audience, and that's a good thing. So because the market is not getting, I mean, it wasn't easier before pandemic. Now it's not easier at all. I mean, we have a lot of platforms, a lot of festivals, a lot of movies. So it is important that at least from the beginning, we're having these as part of the development process of the films. So all the collaborations that can come up now to create films, to exhibit films, to reach audiences are infinite. And that's a great opportunity for everyone in the industry.
I think there's a good point there too. And I know a lot of you guys on the panel have probably heard me say this before, but we at Imperial Savage, we have a philosophy, right? And that, you know, it's a funny saying, but it's kind of true. You know, poor content marketed well is sometimes worth more than well-made content marketed poorly. And so being able to bridge the gap between the show art and the show business in a way that reaches the largest and most lucrative audience possible is where we have an unprecedented opportunity right now in the wake of the pandemic. And that's largely thanks to technology, and it's largely thanks to the creative spirit that we all have, you know, as creators, and finding those solutions. I did want to throw it over. Some of the panelists had some feedback. I'd like to go to you, Josh, and then over to you, David.
Yeah, I just had a quick point about Exhibitor and the film festival comments that were made earlier. I think Bruno was spot on in the sense that we don't want to lose the magic of the in-person element of these things. Looking at what we did this year at the Atlanta Film Festival, which I'm on the board of directors for. And the Atlanta Film Festival, by the way, is one of the top 10 festivals in the world by USA Today ratings. It's also one of the oldest film societies in all of North American continent. So we've figured out ways of moving forward for decades now. And this COVID crisis really presented a challenge for us. We delayed our festival from an April showing down to September, this past September. We decided to go hybrid and do partially in-person, mostly drive-in theater type setting events, as well as go virtual. And we had record-breaking submissions of over 8,500 submissions, and we had record-breaking attendance of over 27,000 people who attended the festival in some shape or form. So I think that there's a great point to be made that there are shifts that are occurring in the festival chain. I have to tell you, when I was sitting out at Sundance in February, or January and February, and I was thinking to myself, you know, this is great. I would have never thought we would be sitting here today, now virtually, and have to punt all of these different festivals. And Cannes, which I've attended every year for the last 5 years, never missed a beat. And this being the first year, I missed the beautiful white tents along the Crusade. There's something magical about being there in person. But I think as we adapt to the audience and we adapt to the consumer needs, we're going to see more and more of these virtual type events that's very engaging. And the positive piece being, again, record-setting attendance at the Atlanta one this year, which was mostly held virtually. So we are opening up these festivals to a new demographic, and ultimately that will open up a new demographic of consumers for our product.
You mentioned
Absolutely.
it perfectly, Josh. You know, the eyeballs virtually around the world, people are able to come to your festival without flying. You know, the Bahamas is the 25th coolest festival in the world by Moving Pictures Magazine, right, Bruno? No.
Yeah, I'll come back.
So, I mean, we had to
Physically.
struggle with the decision about having, you know, in person and virtual, but of course we have to be responsible, right? We have to make sure that we are providing safety for the Bahamians who don't want to go into a theater, but all those visitors who want to come to the Bahamas, sure, they need something that they can experience, touch, and feel. The filmmakers too, they're clamoring at the bit to come and see their film in person at this great backdrop that we have, but we have to be responsible. And I think that the virtual aspect is definitely going to be here to stay. And create more eyeballs, create more revenue for the festival. But Taylor, you mentioned a great point. It's marketing. It's not now location. It's almost like marketing is what we have to really focus on.
Absolutely. And David, you had a story.
Yeah, I don't know how many of our viewers or audience have a film in the film festival circuit, but I think everyone could agree if they do, it's been running a gauntlet like nobody's business. It's been very, very tough. However, I have a happy story. When we were first looking at my latest documentary back in March and April, we were saying, should we hold off or move forward with all of our submissions. And we decided to move forward, because we thought it was a good film and it should get its release, but also it was the 75th anniversary of the end of World War II. And our film was about the invasion of D-Day. So I said we should stick with this. Now, there were multiple cancellations, multiple postponements. We had mentioned how many, there were like record submissions, which makes it even tougher to get in. And there were festivals that I'd hoped we'd get in and we wouldn't. But the crazy thing is, I knew it was a very good film. And we've won awards at over 2/3 of the festivals we've been in. And these have included monetary awards. We've been offered, I think, 5 distribution deals, none of which we took, but we've been used to negotiate against others. And the filmmaker, you know, she was originally devastated by this, but she's realizing that talent will still get discovered even during the pandemic. And we're in a better position now than we were when the pandemic began. And yes, we'll miss out on festivals that either canceled or delayed, but she was one of the few shown films at the Boston International Film Festival this year. She was one of the few films that were at drive-ins, and she was able to still participate in panels and such. And so even in this very sad time, she's a first-time filmmaker. She's really experiencing the joy of making movies.
Yeah, that's, if I may add something, the beauty of the festival circuit. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, the beauty of the film festival circuit is that it is a place where fairy tales can happen, and you never know where a fairy tale is going to start or end with. But one example of that is a case where I was able in my career, having dealt with hundreds and hundreds of film festivals with my films in capacity or another. On one occasion, I had the exact figure of the efficiency of the campaign I did. It's a long time ago. It's very rare. That's why I'm mentioning that. It was for Boys in the Hood. And the head of the studio, after everything went so well in Cannes, first director, John Singleton. And when he left, he said, "Thank you guys. And Bruno, I want you to know that I'm going to change the box office estimate." So now we're talking figures. I'm going to change it from 30 to 50 million. He meant for US box office, domestic box office, meaning basically plus 20 US and probably plus 25 rest of the world. So basically he was saying the job that the festival awareness created for that filmmaker and that film is worth about $45 million box office wise. So it's rare. I haven't seen that very often, but festivals do that. And David, I understand things happen. So it's even though it's slow motion, it's worth going. Go after festivals and go and really go as many as you can afford to, by the way.
Thank you, Bruno. And I want to say, in the interest of time, I'd love to move to some of our fantastic audience questions. Again, my name is Taylor with Imperial Savage. We're a content studio plus advisory firm at the intersection of technology and human connection. And we really believe that the future is very bright for the independent filmmaking community, and we're here to support you. Speaking of Imperial Savage, I'd like to introduce Heather Hutton. She's a partner with our company, and she's going to be asking you guys audience questions. So without further ado, Heather, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you great, Taylor. Hello. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Heather.
Thanks for having me. I'm a director, producer, writer, editor out of Atlanta, Georgia, and a newcomer to Imperial Savage. And we're just really excited to have everybody here today. I'm going to dive right into questions and do the best I can to direct the questions to particular panelists. Some of them go out to everyone. Grady volunteered to tackle the first question, and it is, what is the best advice for doing a $1 to $2 million movie without any equity attached? I mean, let's say if you have your tax credit, some potential pre-sales and some GAP, can you get the film funded without actually having any hard equity in place?
Yeah, I like this question because the person understands the finance plan, and those being the three kind of key pieces that, gap, tax credit, pre-sales, and equity of putting together a budget that works. The short answer to this question is yes, it can be done, and we're doing it now. I alluded to it earlier with, we spent the time this summer to package projects, and that's been going to cast and making sure we're bringing in talent that has market value. And then, back it into a budget that works when we then go to distributors who recognize this talent value and can make an offer, for 1.5, 2 million, whatever, for the rights to distribute in the world. Then you can come to someone like Bondit, who's a debt lender, and we'll finance the entire budget against that amount. So if you've got a $2 million offer and the budget's only 1.5, you've got this buffer in there to cover our principal, our interest, and any kind of contingency. So it's getting done. And I think it's, in order to do that without equity, yes, it's taking advantage of tax credits. And then two, it is making sure that package is as strong as it possibly can be.
Thank you, Grady. I appreciate that. So the next question is from Katie, and it goes out to all of you. For any panelists that would like to give advice, I have only produced a self-funded film, which I distributed on Amazon Prime, and have worked as crew on large full budget productions to gain experience of how larger productions work. My background is in community building and alliance building and other industries. For someone who does not understand the ins and outs of obtaining funding within the industry, where do I start, and what do you want someone to have in place in order to approach potential funders? That's the first part of the question. The second part of the question is, our team can produce high quality for very low costs, but do not know how to gain investors. Where would you start? What do I need to learn, study? Thank you, from Katie.
May I suggest one thing?
Yes.
I suggest using opportunities like AFM. Basically, when you're a filmmaker looking for cash, you're looking for either your family put some money on your project, or people that you don't know, and better ask people who have for which it's their job and the profession, people like Grady or people like that, but also talking massively and in a generic way to the buyers and sales agent in the markets that you can register. If you can afford the registration, which is, I believe, for AFM only $200 or $300. Cannes was even cheaper, but this year you can expose and show your credentials. If you have an experience in community management, then you know how to promote yourself. You know, and you need to do that extensively. But I suggest trying to reach out to the people that are looking for new product in the lobbies of the big markets. That's one way. And there are plenty of other avenues, and I leave the other panelists to share.
And let me piggyback on that, Bruno, and also just say to the person who asked this question, not to get discouraged, right? Because it could be an easy thing to get very discouraged when you're looking for the funds to produce your film. But there are resources out there for you. And if you surround yourself with the right team, and that's, people like Grady, people like Bruno, people that are in the festival chain, very, very community driven, right? They want to see others succeed, and there's mutual benefit to that. Your banker, right? City National Bank, we're here for you as a resource in any way we can be. We, certainly have some great connections that we can make for those individuals. And then lastly, don't forget the true value of the tax credits. If you're filming this project in a tax credit friendly environment, you have a weapon that you can use for immediate funding, of the first, call it 15% of your film. There are brokers out there who are brokering the tax credits. And so you can monetize those tax credits even before the film is made in some situations with the right supply. So don't be discouraged. There's ways that you can move forward.
And that's a perfect opportunity. Leslie, did you want to say something?
I would always say, you know, those smaller intimate festivals as well. I mean, I can tell you how many people have done business deals at our film festival,
Right.
Bahamas International Film Festival, when Roger Corman is there, when Johnny Depp is there, when Nicolas Cage is there. I mean, you have the opportunity to give your script to Nicolas. You know, there's the intimate festivals. You really have to see who's actually attending and see who's, you know, who they're accredited, who's attending, and this is your time to just sit and do your homework and research as to where your film fits, because Bondit may not want a film that has to do with sci-fi, but you know, Bruno, that may be his genre. So you have to make sure that you're researching which fit, who's your fit.
You made a very good point. And the next question on the list, it ties into what we're talking about. So I want to go ahead and throw it out there. It says, what are some of the financial mistakes newcomers should be aware of? And this is a fantastic question. And I think it's something that we're all learning even 10 years, 20 years into the process of filmmaking.
Handshakes don't equal contracts.
Can you repeat that?
Exactly. Say that again, David.
Handshakes do not equal contracts. You need to have stuff on paper.
Right. Good point. And the contracts need to be well written. We've all run into issues of poorly written contracts. Does anybody else want to comment on this question?
Oh yeah, I want just a small, tiny communication marketing piece of advice. When it comes to budget, do not forget to budget something for the festival circuit. Keep some money to be able to promote yourself and brag and attend the festivals that have selected your film and cannot afford to fly you or host you. Some cases the festival will accommodate, offer hotel, but you need to fly and meet people, because meeting people with a film in your pocket showing in the festival is very different. And again, fairy tales happen. It's about trusting your instinct, and if you build it, they will come, you know.
Absolutely, Bruno. And you have to remember every festival has a different cost to enter. So there's a lot of hidden costs in this industry.
Yeah, submission fees, and also travel, and also promotional material. Make sure you have a few posters to put on the marquees, in the hall, and etc. So there should be a little bit of promotion. Once you've made your movie, that's not finished. It's only the beginning. So make sure you have money to stay alive.
Yes. And the Bahamas International Film Festival, we have a screenwriters residency program. So filmmakers who have films in the festival, they also stay on for the residency program or stay on for the festival, because they have their script that they're working on, the next script that they're working on.
Right. Right. That's excellent advice. And Leslie, just to piggyback on that, you know, I work with a lot of indie filmmakers, and I work on the big budget stuff too. And so often the indie filmmakers, they're just so excited about making a short film. They're not thinking 5 years down the road. And so one of the things Imperial Savage is trying to encourage our clients and partners is every independent film you make, even if it's 5 minutes, is a proof of concept for a larger body of work. So that's what I encourage all filmmakers. Okay, the next question is to Josh and Grady. I have a slate of films that are grandfathered into the 181 with investor docs. What is the best way to find and connect with investors interested in the 181 write-off? I have a very reputable distributor ready to move forward as soon as I have investors. Budgets are between 3 and 4M. This is from Patty Price.
Josh, do you want to take that?
Josh?
Sure. So I'll jump in. So Section 181 on tax returns is a big deal for a lot of people, particularly high net worth and ultra high net worth individuals and private investment firms that are interested in the tax write-off. I think your fastest pathway forward, or your most obvious pathway forward, is someone who is interested in the is going to be someone who's interested in the tax credit. So that is going to be kind of your first indication that maybe I should get involved with a tax broker, a tax credit broker, which there are numerous around the country. And if you can align yourself with someone who's interested in monetizing your tax credits, then by virtue of the fact that there's mutual benefit for them to see this film succeed, they're going to align you with investors when it makes sense. So I think your fastest pathway forward, your path of least resistance, at least I would say, is to find yourself a tax credit broker and have a conversation with them. Say, here's the situation, here's where I'm at, here's what I'm interested in, here's the folks that are interested in my project and I need help. And as long as you're willing to monetize those tax credits, that's going to be your first step forward. And someone who's interested in 181 is ultimately interested in your tax credits.
Yeah, I think that's right, Josh. The only other comment I'd say is a lot of the times these lenders, Bondit doesn't really do too many tax credits, but a lot of our partners that are lenders in the, against tax credits, they'll also do the brokering and find you the buyers for those credits as well. So sometimes
I raise my hand because that's, I do a lot of that. So, network is vast. And I would say, again, this ties back to the same point of the last question, which is find yourself the right network of people and surround yourself with the right people and you'll be successful.
I wanted to throw this out there too, when it comes to the tax credit brokerage houses. Sometimes we've been propositioned with this before, that in exchange for exclusivity on a content slate or a promising venture, they may be willing to also come in, depending on who it is, in an equity position as well. And so I want to encourage you all to really think about that. And to Josh's point, really consider your team, because that really can make a huge difference.
100%. And film in locations that are tax credit friendly, like Georgia.
Taylor, I kind of want you to expand on that just for a second, just to get everyone up to speed of how that's both a positive and a negative for the indie community. We've run out of questions, so anybody can sort of expand on any last thoughts, and this is a good one.
Can I just, sorry.
Please, Leslie, go ahead, Leslie.
Yes,
No,
ma'am.
there's one question that I think is important because I have found a lot of filmmakers have this issue. First-time filmmakers, they buy you recommend them to go to festivals. They buy this full access pass, but they don't know how to optimize its use.
Good point.
And that's where Bruno comes in, or somebody like Bruno. But I feel that there's so much going on in the festival space and the virtual space. They don't know really how to access.
Well, thank you for bringing that, Leslie. There's one simple answer is database. And each filmmaker should make sure they build their own database of people that are important, people they know, people they can ask advice, etc., etc. In the case of the big film festival or market, it's very important to build the database of who's there, and so that you can send before the festival of the market happens what you have to say, to sell, to show, to promote. And that is why I've been doing for the last 20 years, building the database. We have close to 200,000 film professionals in the database. And I can tell you that about 60-70% of the people attending AFM or Cannes are in my database. In other words, if you have something, you can tell them, because the chances that you meet them in the Carlton exist, or in the lobby or whatever, and they want to know more about your product. But it's easier if you tell them and send them the email with a lot of attention given to how you build your HTML message, etc. So my advice is build a database and or hire one or buy one or rent one, whatever, and send in advance. You should come prepared. Trusting your luck is good, but it's not enough. Work.
Yeah, not only you have to know yourself, but know your festival.
Yep.
Once you find out what the lineup of the festival is, it's pretty easy to find out who the producers are and find out who was the financial people involved with that. So you should never go, and Leslie made a very good point. Don't just show up at a fest. Show up prepared. Just like as a writer or a producer, anyone, research is the most important element of making a film. Whether you're a location scout or a producer or a banker or whatever. So as a filmmaker, do your research. Go to that festival knowing, have a spreadsheet, knowing what films are there, who produced it, who financially backed it. These are very simple things to track down, but they're worth their weight in gold.
Because David, also too, I know your next point was going to be, it may not be for this film, it could be for another film that you have like 5 years from now, right?
Exactly.
So it's building that network and keeping those, like sending high notes and saying hello, and just networking is so important.
And also a piece of advice that I learned on my first participation in Cannes. My boss and I were sitting just behind Steven Spielberg in the Cannes theater. And at the end of the screening, he touched the shoulder and say, "Hey, hi, Steven, I'm Steve. We met in Cannes." And Steve Spielberg said, "Yeah, sure." And we started talking for 10 minutes. So the punchline is, "Hey, hi, Leslie, we met in Cannes." It will work with anyone important you meet somewhere. Say, "We met in Cannes." So then the person in front of you thinks, "Yeah, we're from the same world. So I can talk to this person, even though I don't know him or her, don't know what kind of things they're trying to sell." It works. I've seen it. The other thing is, it works as well, but grab a very big camera and go into the entrance of the hottest party in the festivals or market and say, "Oh, I'm filming for the festival." "Which festival?" "Yeah, I'm filming for the festival." That's as good as a VIP ticket to enter. And once you are in the party, you can talk to anyone famous.
Hey, and I just want to follow up to Carol, because Carol, I see your comment to everyone. I would say, you can do all your research. You can do everything right and still not be at the right place at the right time. Look, the only way to make this happen is to continuously do it over and over. Repetitive behavior and consistency will eventually yield result in almost anything we do. So I would say, don't be discouraged if you go to one festival and you don't make a connection. Keep going, more festivals, more connections, more networking events. You have to stay consistent and don't be discouraged.
The showbiz is about the 99 closed doors with the one that opens, the 100th one. You're going to have to knock on a lot of closed doors.
Right.
And
Yeah,
we had one more question that came in. It's from Carol Lee Hall. It said, "I did my research ahead of time and queried producers, distributors, financiers, but no one responded. Would it be profitable to follow up?" And you guys are sort of addressing this as we go. But I just wanted to monkey back on this question to not be discouraged, because we've all been there. I've been there. I've emailed thousands of people and gotten no response.
Spike Lee is still there. Spike Lee is still there. He knocks on people's doors to help them find, city to finance his films, and other places, other banks to finance his films. And he's still, he went on crowdfunding.
Yeah, I would say, Carol, as well, I've got probably a half dozen pictures that I'm working on now with a full-blown A-list Academy Award-winning talent attached to it, and we're still dialing for dollars. So this doesn't become easier. Look, this is the way that we tell the winners and the losers in this industry, is by staying consistent, keeping your head down and focused, and not be discouraged by how much work and effort it is, because it will pay off eventually. There's no way that you can yield this high level of activity and not yield a result at some point. So keep focused and keep going.
And maybe what I would like to add is maybe consider taking a fresh look at your message, how you promoted, how you pitched the people. Make sure you show that to a couple of people and ask them, well, what do you take of that? Is it sexy? Does it look nice, etc. So think of the formatting of your pitching is very important, of course, because they are so busy receiving before the market. They receive all the invitation for screening from people they know and that their priority, from clients, etc. So newcomers, the message has to be really effective and nicely and creative.
All right, Bruno, can I tell another point that you needed to? You have to really know every facet of the industry. You have to be a triple threat. You have to, if you're a writer, you have to know how to pitch. You have to learn how to produce. If you're a director, you have to learn how to, you just have to be everything now.
Understanding how they work, what they like, and that's what festivals are good at, because you meet all these professions and you start understanding. So, and one of the strong thing you also learn in film festivals is working as a team, is meeting different people, and that's something that the Bahamas Film Festival does wonderfully. One of the very few experience I had, where, because Leslie is about filmmakers, and she does this, not only the filmmakers retreat where people are working on the scripts with jurors, mentors, etc., but also just putting people together and so that they can better mingle, better network, know each other and know the other's profession. That's very important, really important, because film is about team and script.
And Bondit was a sponsor of our.
I remember. Yeah.
So say
Matthew.
hi to Matthew. Thank you.
I will. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Great, a great company. Bondit is a fantastic company. Anybody who, from start to finish, from script to screen to payrolls to everything.
Yeah.
I mean, they're a really good company. I think that you should focus on.
Well, I can add one personal anecdote from this conversation is I wouldn't have gotten this job here if I wasn't networking at festivals and just making this track sheet of all the people that I thought were interesting, whether they were lawyers or screenwriters or managers. It didn't really matter. And I just did my best to meet with as many people as possible and follow up with them, be kind, like you said, and you don't know where that relationship may land you or lead to. And a lot of those people that I met at those festivals are coming back now, and we're working on projects, financing projects, producing things together. And I can't stress, everything all of you guys said enough, that networking and being friendly and open to relationships is so important.
And it's an industry of very long arcs where you sow the seeds, with someone 1 year, and then you'll meet them 2 years down the line in Cannes, or 3 years down the line at AFM, and they'll introduce you to someone, and it's long arcs that interleave, and you will see results in the end.
I had a sponsor who eyeballed the film festival for about 10 years and then jumped on board on the 11th year. I was knocking at his door the whole, for 10 years. And he's like, okay, I finally understand. Let's support it. So it could take it could take many years.
Yeah, thank you all for these excellent points. I think we were able to provide a lot of insight for the panelists today. And, just going back to, or for the audience, going back to AFM 2020, I have to say, it's an incredible opportunity for those that are attending to really bridge those gaps and make those connections. It was a couple of years ago that we sponsored the opening night party at the American Film Market. And our campaign and the people that we met there, it was just, it was life-changing. It was really incredible. Cesar, that's where we met. That's where I met Matthew Helderman with Bondit, the three of us are connected as a direct result of that, and look at all of us here today, and so I want to say, just thank you to Jonathan Wolf for putting this together. He did, for those that are attending the market, Jonathan and I, we reserved a table on the floor 10. It's table 12. It's called The New Normal. So after the panel, if any of you any of the panelists in the audience want to take a separate meeting, feel free to go to the networking pavilion there, and you can continue the conversation. And so again, I just want to say thank you, Bruno, thank you, Grady, thank you, Leslie, thank you, Josh, thank you, David, thank you, Cesar, thank you, Sefi, Heather, thank you as well. This has been a real pleasure. And I hope that we were able to provide some real value for our audience today as we move forward with the new normal. So without further ado, I just want to encourage you to stay looking up, stay focused, stay consistent, have a great market. And then if you want to reach out to us, you feel free to go over to our table and continue the conversation there, and visit our booth to learn more about our incredible projects with Imperial Savage. I could literally spend an hour talking just about those because we're really excited about it, but I encourage you to check it out. We've got some incredible things we put together with people all over the world. And, personally, I'm excited to be continuing the conversation with all of you wonderful panelists about what we can do together in the future as well. Heather, was there something you wanted to throw in there before we wrap?
Just wanted to remind the audience that our mission is to raise underrepresented voices as storytellers and filmmakers, and the indie part of this market is where to do it. And I'm with everyone. It's very discouraging starting out. There's been many times when I just wanted to give up and go to work for the man and be done with it. But there's a really inspiring mission behind why we're all here, and we have a very unique opportunity as independent filmmakers rather than Hollywood level filmmakers to tell those unique stories and raise underrepresented voices, people of color, our LGBTQ communities, women's lib, all of this. And so as Imperial Savage, these are the stories we're going after, and we're going to do what we can do to get them funded and built. And we encourage you all to stay in touch with us, and we would love to collaborate with you on anything you have coming down the tubes. And that's it.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Taylor, for having us.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Taylor.
Stay healthy.
What is the floor that we're supposed to go on to?
Sure, great question, Leslie. We're on floor 10, and it's table 12, and it's called the new normal. So if you go up to that 10th floor level on the networking pavilion, we have a table reserved there.
So 10th floor, table 4.
Table 12, floor 10. I think that's the top floor of the networking pavilion, and it's called the new normal.
Thanks. Bye.
See you guys.
See you, everyone.
See you.
Nice to
Bye.
meet everyone.
Nice to meet you all.
Take care, everybody.
Take care.